Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Text 32. Tvam Vatamanam Naradeva Dehishu Anupravrito Yamadharma Pugaha Lobo Nitam Choryam Manaryamam Ho Jeshta Chamaya Kalahas-Chadamba Tvam you Vartamanam while present Naradeva a man, god or king Dehishu in the body Anupravritaha taking place everywhere I am all these adharma irreligious principles Pugaha in the masses Lobha greed Anritam falsity Choryam robbery Anaryam incivility Amha treachery Jeshta misfortune Cha and Maya cheating Kalaha quarrel Cha and Damba vanity. Translation. If the personality of Kali, irreligion, is allowed to act as a man-god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound. Purport. The principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, as we have already discussed, may be followed by the follower of any faith. There is no need to turn from Hindu to Mohammedan to Christian or some other faith and thus become a renegade and not follow the principles of religion. The Bhagavatam religion urges following the principles of religion. Principles of religion are not the dogmas or regulative principles of a certain faith. Such regulative principles may be different in terms of the time and place concerned. One has to see whether the aims of religion have been achieved. Sticking to the dogmas and formulas without attaining the real principle is not good. A secular state may be impartial to any particular type of faith, but the state cannot be indifferent to the principles of religion as above mentioned. But in the age of Kali, the executive heads of state will be indifferent to such religious principles, and therefore, under their patronage, the opponents of religious principles, such as greed, falsehood, cheating, and pilfery, will naturally follow, and so there will be no meaning to propaganda crying to stop corruption in the state. Translation, please repeat. If the personality of Kali, irreligion, is allowed to act as a man-god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound. So, chapter's entitled The Punishment and Reward of Kali. So, some very nice qualities mentioned here. Also in the Bhagavad Gita, we have in the 16th chapter, Dambo Dapo, again this word Damba. Dambo Dapo Vimanas Kroda Parashabevacha Jnanam Chapicha Pata Sampadam Asurim, the qualities of the Asuras, Ahankaram Balam Dapam Kamam Krodam Chasapra. Many verses in the 16th chapter that describe demoniac Asura qualities. Now, of course, Krishna tells Arjuna that you are born of the divine qualities. But those who have the Asura qualities, they will be bound to the cycle of birth and death. Narakashyedam. Nara. So, now here, Kali, of course, now Parikshit Maharaj has come across Kali beating the legs of the cow and the bull, symbolizing Mother Earth, and Dharma, the principles of religion. Mother Earth will take a beating. So, although I've mentioned that this symbolic is both symbolic and actually happened, because Mother Earth appeared in that way, and Dharma appeared in the form of the bull. So Mother Earth took the beating, and we see Mother Earth is taking a beating, even more. And the Dharma, in the form of the bull, Kali is beating on his legs. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, truthfulness. We've already discussed, Prabhupada says. Now austerity is good for spiritual life. Some sort of austerity, some form of tapasya, some form of restraint. We can't just allow the senses and the mind to go wild. And as I said the other morning also, that we go by our feelings, our emotions, but our feelings and emotions are not all the time helpful. Sometimes they may be helpful, sometimes not. We have to be guided by higher thinking and higher philosophy, and guided by our acharyas, and guided by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because just guided by one's lower nature it won't be very helpful on a progressive march, even materially or spiritually. These things are given to help us. One may think that a great imposition, a great austerity, why I have to do austerity, why I have to do tapasya. It's good for austerity gives us conviction, gives us determination, and especially in the Kali Yuga, we need a lot of conviction to stick on the path of devotional service. And there are so many distractions. We so easily can be distracted from the path of devotional service. After so many lives, we've come now to this life, and now we've got the opportunity. And this life is not very long. Who knows how long it's going to last? At any moment. Of course, for devotees, we're in the hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Normally someone has their karma. The karma goes over many lives. We've had so many lives and built up so much karma, good and bad, it can't fit just in one life. It has to go over many lives. And so sometimes you get the good, sometimes you get the bad. But for a devotee, now that is predestined for everyone. Of course, one can do acts and to help alleviate that to some extent. But for a devotee, it's another thing, because when one comes and surrenders to Krishna, then Krishna accepts that karma and wipes the slate, and gives them to give one opportunity to progress on the spiritual path. If one has to get the karma, from time to time Krishna gives a little sprinkling of the karma just to show a point or to do something. But certainly the devotees in the hands of the Lord. I remember one time I was in Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple in Trivandrum, and we were walking, and you can't go in there, Westerners can't go in, but because ISKCON has a very good relationship with the pujaris and the managers there, if you go in with the devotees from the temple, we can go in. So we went in, and a beautiful temple. We come in, and the Lord Nrsingadev, and I remember one time I was coming in with korma, and we were looking, there's a big, huge number of people, and Korma said, well, I feel there's some deity down there is giving off a lot of... I said, yeah, that deity, you know, giving a lot of effulgence, and I feel the power from here. And as we got closer to the Lord Nrsingadev. So then you go, so many deities inside there. And Padmanabha lying, Lord Vishnu lying on Anantasesha. A very beautiful temple. That Anantasesha is made of, they told us, we were able to go in, amazingly, we were able to go in through the devotees, and such a good relationship, but they took us right in the inner sanctorium, in the deity room. In the deity room, they took us in there, and that's unbelievable. I don't know how it happened, but I got the mercy. And that lying down Lord Vishnu, very common in South India, they have these deities. And that Anantasesha is made up of 13,000 Shalagram Shilas. They're all fused together to make Anantasesha. Oh, we have the call again. Silent mode. So beautiful deity. And as we were coming out, we met a big pundit who was the astrologer for all the pundits in there, and also he was the astrologer for the king, the Maharaja, who's that temple goes under the patronage of the Maharaja of that area. And he was telling us that I do all the calculations for everyone, and for the king also, for so many big people. So I just was joking with. He was quite favourable to the devotees. He knew the devotees. He knew the temple president and everything. So I said, I was just joking. Oh, you should do my chart. He said, no, I never do for the swamis and the gurus. He said, no. I said, what's the use? Because I can just do the chart, but Krishna can change it like that. My reputation's finished. Someone can say, you said here, but it didn't happen. Because, you know, he said the devotee is in the hands of the Lord. And so that can change just like that. So Krishna can do anything. He can, you know, prolong your life. He can, you know, we were saying the other day that Bhakti Charamaj, we had the special ceremony for Bhakti Charamaj who passed away, and today there's on the third day also Prabhupada wrote that one should do a little bit of a ceremony. So I believe that some Damodar is doing some cooking and an offering for Maharaj today. So we can speak a little bit about Maharaj. I gave a class online yesterday. I was hooked up to Ujjain, and many of the disciples from India had asked me to speak. So that was, that went for an hour and a half. You know, I mean, so many questions. And how to understand Maharaj's passing from the world, and so on. A very esoteric thing, and so on. He's in the hands of Krishna. He's in the hands of God. He's not ordinary, extraordinary personality. And so that was some sort of really a leela. And so many of my godbrothers said the same thing. I've just been reading many of the offerings of the godbrothers, and they are saying that he was sent by Lord Chaitanya and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya to assist, as I was saying the other day, that he was to assist Srila Prabhupada in spreading the Krishna consciousness. There's a beautiful, I saw, someone sent me a video with Maharaj when he was a little boy, that smile of his, that smile. And when he's a little boy, and then going through his life, you know, showing him as a student and a young man, and then as a young devotee. Very, very wonderful devotee. But you know, he came and he took the initiation. He came in in December 76, and he met Prabhupada in January in Mayapur in 77. And in February at Gopurnim time, he received first and second initiation. just like that. And then 3 months later, Prabhupada gave him sannyas. A lot of my brothers are saying that we can understand those things are not very common, even amongst devotees. Even amongst devotees. They're not very uncommon, so everyone's saying the same thing. So when many devotees have the same type of realization, you can understand this is the actual situation. That he has been sent. He is like an eternal associate, something, in that category. He was sent and to help Prabhupada. And Prabhupada immediately recognized him. And boom, boom, boom. The first, second sannyas 3 months later. Even though he just joined up, normally that wouldn't happen. So a very, very wonderful devotee. And so I thought to speak a little bit more. But so many devotees have said that their closeness with Bhakti Charamaj, everyone felt close to him, everyone felt they were the ones that had the special relationship. A very extraordinary devotee makes everyone feel like that. Makes, just like a little bit with Venugopal. Everyone thought that they were the ones that had the special relationship, apart from everybody else. But actually it was the same with everyone. So very, very extraordinary devotees have that effect. The warmth, the affection, the love, go out of your way, sacrifice anything, just like Guru Prabhu was giving the class on Sanat Goswami. He was so dear to everyone. The disappearance of the Sanat Goswami anniversary, he would go village to village. And even little things like family quarrels, he would try to help out. So Maharaj was the same. Even little things, even insignificant, he would just try to help out. He always wanted to help you. Fly from one side of the planet to the other side of the planet, just at the moment, some problem. Normally when there's some problem somewhere, in our movement also we have some problem that after all it is Kali Yuga, and that's those devotees in that area, they have to deal with that. Maharaj, can I help? He would fly there. So many times he did like that. He did it in France, he did it in South Africa, he did it in so many, in Mayapur there was problems, there's so many, he's there. And when we're looking around, who can help this situation, he's the first one to put up his hand. It always was like that, sacrifice. And he'd give you the shirt off his back too, I remember one time I arrived to go to Mayapur to the airport, and somehow or other they mixed up my luggage. I didn't have it. My luggage didn't arrive yet, so I had nothing. I just had to go, so I had the same cloth. So he found out about it and gave me a set of his cloth, so I could have a fresh set of cloth to wear at least. That's the sort of person he was. He was somehow or other. I don't know how he found it. He found out my luggage didn't arrive yet. I didn't have anything. I didn't even have a toothbrush. So he supplied everything. He sent some devotee to bang on my door the next morning. Practically woke me up. But how he found out. But he was like that. So a very wonderful devotee. But going back to the point here of these principles, they're good. We need to, with conviction, follow austerity, do some austerity. I mean, after all, there was that verse from Lord Rishabh, the Tapo Divyam Putra King Sudya Jasmat Brahma Sokyam Tonam. Everyone does austerity. Materialists who are trying to enjoy, they're doing austerity. They have to get up early in the morning, go to work. Who's that person who can raise their hand? I love going to work. Right? I love it. It's nectar. They grit their teeth, they get up early in the morning. Some of them really early in the morning. I remember one time I was with Kalia, we were out at a devotee's house right in the west of Sydney. And so we thought, we had to go to New Gokula. They have to go across Sydney. So we said, the traffic's going to be a killer. Traffic's going to be a killer. So let's get up, and we'll get up at 3 o'clock and we'll leave by 4 o'clock. So we left by 4 o'clock, hit the motorway, packed. Couldn't believe it. It's packed because everyone's thinking the same thing. Beat the traffic. So we got in there. We got in the middle of a traffic jam. So they get up. And Prabhupada made a comment one time. I remember we were on the Japa walk in the Botanical Gardens in Melbourne. And it was around about 6 o'clock in the morning. Already, everyone whizzing past, going to work and jammed up. And Prabhupada stopped and he said, they're working so hard. He said, they're working so hard. They get up every day. So everyone's doing austerities. And so Lord Rishabh told his sons, why not, well, you're doing austerities anyway, why not do it for spiritual life? Tapo divyam putrakena sujjat Brahma Sokyam, because Brahma Sokyam tvanantam, because Brahma Sokyam, the happiness of the Brahman, tvanantam, that's eternal. Whereas other things, you do your austerity, who knows exactly what if you get what you want, or people sacrifice so many things, whether they're going to get and fulfill their desires, so on and so forth. So austerity is needed, but what destroys austerity? What irreligious principles destroys the principle of austerity? Intoxication. When people, I've read a little different statements on this, but generally this is the sequence. That intoxication destroys you. You lose your sense of, you're taking intoxication. You don't have any control. You lose your sense of austerity. And here another one is mentioned: cleanliness. Cleanliness is destroyed by. So cleanliness of the body. Of the body and the mind, that is destroyed by. So when we indulge in these things, the good principles are destroyed. So cleanliness and mercy. What destroys the mercy? Meat eating, killing so many animals, that destroys the mercy. And then of course. We have truthfulness, and what destroys the truthfulness? Gambling. So the gambling, one can't remain truthful. So here in the translation of the verse, the personality of Kali, he's allowed to, if the personality of Kali is allowed to act as a man god, or an executive head. Now, the kings were like that. They were considered man gods. Not that they were God, but they were representatives. But they actually had to be. I think still today, like in some countries, the king, they have the monarchs, and they're considered like a god, like in Thailand and perhaps Japan or something like that. They're considered like a god. Of course, you can't just rubber stamp that. The king's a god. Here the word is Naradeva. Naradeva, the kings of God, but they actually had to have godly qualities. And then you find that gradually these qualities diminished, and then there was uprising, and the monarchy was abolished. But of course, what it was replaced with was another thing. Whether that was better or not, that system also became corrupt. But anyway, the monarchies gradually became, or they became just figureheads. They weren't. You have so many monarchs around, and more or less they're figureheads. They're not actually empowered really to lead governments and so on and so forth. But previously, like Parikshit Maharaj and Yudhisthira and so many others, they were man gods, and they were worshipped like that, because actually the king is worshipped, and the king and the queen, they are worshipped, they are represented. But one actually has to be like that. But here we have Kali. He's dressed up like the king, and he's beating the legs of the cow. Now here it is said, if someone like that is allowed to do that, pose themselves as a leader, yet destroying all the good qualities, all the principles of promoting adharma, then chaos. Here it is said, certainly irreligious principles like greed. Now I was explaining the other morning that in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada mentions that a weakness of the heart. The weakness of the heart, the two weaknesses of the heart. One is the lording it over propensity. You want to control. You want to control so many things beyond your level. You want to be a controller. It's like we have that saying, such and such, he's a control freak or she's a control freak. Well, actually, all of us in the Kali, we're all control freaks. It's a weakness of the heart. It may seem like a strength, but spiritually speaking, it's a weakness. Because actually, the Lord is the supreme control. But we're thinking, so it's a weakness. But they're thinking, I can control this one, control that one. And the second weakness of a heart is accumulating more and more unnecessarily, more and more things. This is called the second weakness of a heart. Getting more and more. So, but in today's society, that seems to be the goal. I mean, that's promoted. It's promoted. You get as, build up your assets. You get more money. I remember reading a long time ago, they did a survey of the richest people of the world. And they asked them, what, you're so nicely situated, but is there anything else you want? You've got so much money, wealth. What else do you want? And majority of answers were more money. More money. The guy's a billionaire. What else do you want? More. How much do you need? But still, it's just that, see, it's the greed principle. This greed principle comes from the weakness of heart. This greed principle is very strong in Kali Yuga because of the weakness of heart. First one, controlling. Second one, of course, one doesn't always fulfill that, but still, the desire is strong, weakness of heart. Second one, getting more and more. Greed. The greed principle. So, it's almost here, and so these words are used very carefully. It's not just think of any adjective and then put it in the translation, or put it in the verse. No. Very, very carefully. One follows the other. One follows the other. Where there's, where these principles, where someone acts like the God, but not actually, and actually, beating down the Dharma, promoting the adharma, then there must be greed. Because, and Prabhupada ends this purport by saying that it's no use crying about trying to stop corruption and all this type of, we've got to stop corruption, build up our police, build up our investigative, put more cameras, do this and that. And it's not going to work because the lower nature of beings is strong because of this irreligious situation, because of Adama and Kali. Unless you deal with that, it's a losing battle. You're never going to stamp out corruption because people will be driven by their lower urges. You understand this point? And this is why Prabhupada said, there's no use crying about, there's so much corruption, we've got to clean it up, this, that, and the other thing. All sorts of things happen. So greed. So this greed principle comes from the weakness of heart, and then from greed comes falsehood. It's almost like a mathematical equation here. It's like greed and then falsehood. Falsehood means, not telling the truth. So if you're greedy, you're really greedy for something, how can I get that thing? You become obsessed by it. Become obsessed by your greed. I want more. And you haven't got the means to get it, but you're still greedy for it. So how can I get it? Therefore I have to go into falsehood. I have to do whatever I can, tell all sorts of untruths, and to get it. By fulfill my desire to be, my greed, lobha, greed. So falsehood, and then when there's falsehood, then it goes again. So you tell untruth, and then then you go to the robbery, pilfering. So pilfering. Papa used the word pilfering. Wherever you can get it, and if there's some opportunity, you'll pilfer. And incivility. So where there's greed, you become a hard person. When you tell untruths, your heart becomes harder and harder, and then you won't treat each other. I mean, if you're going to be greedy and you're going to tell untruth, and you're going to resort to pilfering and steal, you can't be civil with each other. Or you'll make a show of civility, but underneath it all, and a lot of theft is done is in-house. Statistics show that theft is in-house. Okay, this was stolen, that was stolen, this went missing, that went missing, and they generally the police look first of all in-house, and if they can't find it then they go out. You see. So you can't treat each other very well if you succumb to greed. So you're always thinking for your advantage, you see. So you can't be straightforward with people. One of the good qualities of a devotee is straightforwardness. And so you can't be straightforward if you have a lot of greed. You're always thinking how to get advantage. So superficially you can put on a show, but underneath it, you have to be false, you have to be pilfering, incivility. Now treachery, this comes to this again. Treachery. Now treachery means that, someone's invested with trust. You trust your brother and your sister and your wife and your husband and your friend and this and that, but that person betrayed you. This is a definition of treachery. He betrayed you. That's the worst type of betrayal, isn't it? Your close friend. Who did it? Oh, my friend did it. Well, how could she do it? I thought we were friends. Right? How can he do it? I thought we were friends. We've known each other since we were kids. He did it. She did. She was the one. He was the one. I can't believe it. Treachery. All these things follow. Again, mathematical equation. Incivility, pilfering, treachery. So because this greed is pushing you, this lower urge is pushing on you, then you have to be, to get it, you can, you just can't get it all the time. To get it, you have to resort to these other things. Falsehood, robbery, it's a treachery. Okay, robbery, you're going to go out and rob a bank, that's a bit hard. There's all sorts of systems. Treachery then, all right, get it from your friends. Get it from your friends or your relatives or something like that. So there's pilfering and there's treachery. And then, of course, you do all these things. Then there's misfortune. You break society's ruin, there's going to be misfortune. And not only society's ruin, but then you're going to get some karma. And then instead of creating a prosperous situation for yourself and for society, it's going to be, misfortune is going to be going to abound everywhere. So actually you're thinking you're getting ahead. Who was telling me? Ganga was telling me that that before he had a little bit of an unsavory past before he was a devotee, and he was into robbery and all this type of thing, right? But immediately you get that money. It's ill-gotten money, and normally people work hard, get their money. They think about it very carefully. He got the money, but within just a short time, it's gone. It's just gone. That's the result, isn't it? Yourself and all your friends who did like that, he's going like that. So because because it's just ill-gotten, and you're so out of control with your greed and your lust that you just spend it. There's no control over it. You can't control your spending. You get it, and then immediately it's gone. And then misfortune, and if you get caught, and it's gone, and then you have to get more. So it just creates a whole misfortune. Cheating, of course, then you go into cheating and quarreling, of course, these things go almost unsaid. Vanity will abound. Vanity is an interesting word. Because vanity means you're excessively proud of your own looks, or excessively proud of your own achievements. Like to boast. Think yourself so good. Going around. Generally people get very puffed up. Jain Mashwara Shusasibi. Get very puffed up, easily puffed up. Janma, high, big family. You can't be born, your family's really high family, big family in society, a lot of money, or aristocratic family and so on. Aishwara, and people get puffed up over the name of the family and so on. Materialists. And then Aishwara. Then if you've got a lot of money. If you've got a lot of money, you may be the lowest type person. If you've got a lot of money, you're very proud. Vainglorious. There's a word vainglorious. So it's an interesting word, because we were talking about glorious the other morning with Prithu Maharaj, right? Not Prithu Maharaj, with Parikshit Maharaj. He was glorious, and glorious means that one has achieved a lot throughout their life, or one has very saintly qualities. Therefore, they are glorious. And so Maharaj Parikshit is glorious, and his praises are sung through history and will continue to be sung, because he's actually glorious. Some people like to think they're glorious, but actually he is glorious, just like his forefathers, the Pandavas and so on, the whole lineage. They're all glorious. They were Rajrishis. You see, so he's, but someone who's vainglorious, or vanglorious, they're glorious in their own heads. What's that term? Something in his own mind. Is there something in his own mind? Huh? Legend. A legend. Someone's a legend in their own mind. That's the term. You're a legend in your own mind. You're a legend. So people are like that. So vainglorious. You know, but the glory is about your own vanity. So your own vanity means, you know, your looks, your intelligence, your mind, are you able to do things, your achievements. People like to boast, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur would say like that. Generally, the materialists, you know, when someone is lesser than them, they lord it over and control them like anything. And if someone's on the same level, they like boast, and, you know, they try to one-up them. You know, they see someone as on the same level, they try to one-up them. Oh yeah, someone will say, oh yeah, I made $1 million. Yeah, oh yeah, well I made 2. You know, on the stock market I pulled in 5 million. Oh yeah, well that's nothing. I made 10 million. So, and then someone who's actually way out, they're really envious of them. Because they're envious all through, but they're really envious. They try to pull them down. They try to, you know, find ways to pull them down. I always remember that years ago, that statement of Lee Iacocca, who ended up as the chairman of Chrysler, right? So they asked him after he retired, he said, what's your advice for up and coming, you know, directors and CEOs? And he said that, well, my advice is that be careful who you step on the way up. Because on the way down, they're going to kick you in the head. That's very good. That's very, somehow or other, through, you know, personal experience, he's got some wisdom there. So we're like that. We'll do anything to get what we want. And actually, you know, especially those in the mode of ignorance and in the Kali Yuga, everyone's in a mode of ignorance, perhaps some mix of passion, very tiny goodness maybe. Some people are more in goodness, but majority are. So, you know, they just, the way they treat each other, you know, there's some people just enjoy seeing other people suffering. That's like their nectar, you know. Come running out, you know, some people come, you know, there's a car accident, or some people come running out of a concern. Some other people just coming out and see what the mess is. Oh, what's going on? That's like their nectar. As long as it doesn't happen to them. It happens to everybody else, but not me. And generally these people, so many qualities are there, those in the motor. They like to blame everybody. They're never at fault. It's never their fault. It's always the other person's fault. Even if it's their fault, it's not their fault. It's that person's fault. They never like to admit they did anything wrong. It's always the other person's fault. These are the qualities of ignorance. So there's vanity, boasting, all this type of thing. These things will follow if personalities are in the executive head position or the monarch position or whatever, but they're not qualified. They're not qualified. That's the problem. And not only are they not qualified, and they're not qualified, and therefore they will be possessed of lower nature. And because of the lower nature, instead of trying to counteract this adharma, they promote it. They promote it. And because they see that, they're not trained. They don't know what the goal of the life. They have their goals, but they're misled. There's no training. No, you know, as I said, these kings like Maharaj Parikshit, they were trained right from their childhood. They're trained in all these principles, you know. But no one is now. Someone's elected. Who knows what sort of training if they had any training? They get in these positions, and so they don't know what to do. And they're trained with they have their particular ideas. So these are very, very important. Now Prabhupada does make a strong point here. He says here that the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, they are there. They should be there. They're there, and those that are true religions of the world. You know, someone that just speculates. But true religions of the world must have these principles. And if someone is actually following, and there's no need to go from, can convert from being a Hindu to a Muslim, or Muslim to a Christian, or Christian to someone. So, and Prabhupada very much promoted that. So you just follow if you're comfortable following that particular religion, you follow that. But please actually follow the principles of religion. In other words, follow this austerity and truthfulness and cleanliness and mercy. Don't stamp yourself, I'm a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or whatever, and then be hypocritical and not follow these things. If one follows these things, then you can just stay in your position. Krishna consciousness movement is not really about converting people from one religion to the other. We want to see that they are followed. Of course, Krishna consciousness is certainly sweet, and unfortunately, because they are not following these things, we do promote to come and join the Krishna consciousness movement. But actually, if they follow these things in their own religions, they could very peacefully stay. If you want to follow Lord Jesus, follow Lord Jesus. At the end of your life, you follow Jesus for 100%, you'll go and be with Lord Jesus after you leave this body. Now Prabhupada told us Lord Jesus resides in the higher planes, like Brahmaloka or something like that. So, you can be with Jesus, but don't be hypocritical. So unfortunately, people who brand themselves Christian, Muslim, they don't follow these things. Or they follow just some of them and not others. They're very, you find this, very strong on some areas, very atyahara prayasa prajalpa niyamagraha. Now, too fanatic in one side and just super lax on the other side. It destroys the actual advancement it destroys actual spiritual advancement. Atyahara prayasa prajalpa niyamagraha. There are certain things that destroy. So niyamagraha, either following too fanatically, or fanaticism is disturbing wherever you are, in any religion, in the Krishna consciousness also, in our movement, they're too much fanatic. Of course, there's a difference between fanatic and devout. Devout, fanatic, you're taking something and you're obsessed with it, and you want to beat everyone over the head with it. You must follow. I remember I had to, in the early days, one devotee was getting on the other devotee's case, because when they went into the temple room, the devotee, he only one hand touched the floor, the other one. So then when that devotee came out, the other devotee, you rascal, I said, Prabhu. He may have done like that, but what you're doing is worse. So we have to be careful. The reaction is worse than whatever was the wrong performed. There's some slight thing, but your reaction is 100 times worse. And then the reaction to the reaction quite often is like that. Some little thing happened, and then because of their own mode of passion and anger and all this type of anger, all these things destroy. It was just Trividam Narakasiram Dvaram Nasanam Makama Kroda Tada Lobas Tasmedam Tada. 3 gates leading to that lust, anger and greed. Krishna says. No. The anger, lust, greed again. So we get so angry. When anger is out of control, it can be devastating. We often read that in anger someone killed their friend, or killed their husband, or killed their wife, or in anger. So these things are very detrimental. So, but if one follows, all these things, and so it doesn't matter Hindu, Muslim, Christian. The principles of religion are not dogmas or regular principles of a certain faith. They are universal. As I remember, someone came to see Prabhupada. It was Father Kelly came to see Prabhupada in Melbourne. And in the course of the discussion, he asked Prabhupada, and he said that, sometimes, I just wanted to ask, he said, sometimes someone comes to us and they say, God told them to do this. And then another one says, but they are diametrically opposed to each other. So how can we reconcile? And Prabhupada answered very interesting. He said, well, the principles of religion are given in the scriptures, and they are universal for all. So if they are saying God said this or God said that, and it goes against what it says in the scriptures, then how God would have said that to them. So we can understand, of course there can be exceptions, but generally speaking, Prabhupada, he said like that, very wonderful answer. Generally speaking, so is it God talking to you, or who's talking to you? Is it your own mind talking to you? Some Buddha's talking to you? God told me to bang him over the head with a hammer. God told me. Did God tell you that? Why would God tell you to do that? They're in the Shastras and they bang him over the head with a hammer. But people think like that, out of some emotion or out of perhaps some mental disturbance, some schizophrenia, some Buddha, who knows. So one should not become so fanatical and so emphatic, God told me. Don't try to see God, but work in such a way that God would want to see you. So this is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Just be humble and just serve God. Don't try to, from our position, don't try to understand. I was just reading in the class I gave online yesterday, that even great philosophers, great rishis, great devas, demigods, they don't know the mind of the Supreme Personality. And even they try for years, they don't know. They can't ascertain it. Because he is the all-independent personality of Godhead. So all of a sudden, maybe God can speak to someone, but we shouldn't just immediately, yes, it was God. So this fanaticism or too lax, one has to be guided by the Shastras. And as far as corruption, all these things, again, I reiterate this point that Prabhupada finishes on. There will be no meaning to propaganda crying to stop crying. Even the crying, it's propaganda crying. Propaganda crying, there's a motive behind it. They're politicians. They can be so, what is actually going on here? There's a corruption, we have to clean it up, but is there something in it for this one? Why all of a sudden this one's pushing this? Is it? Why is someone all of a sudden pushing this point? It's been going on for decades. All of a sudden, an election year or something like that. All of a sudden they're pushing on it. Right? It's been going on for decades and decades. All of a sudden it's a big issue. So it's propaganda crying. Very wonderful. Prabhupada chose his words very carefully. Propaganda crying to stop corruption. So to stop corruption, the urges will push you. You have to be corrupt. You have to be corrupt because of your lower nature pushing on you, because these principles of religion are not being followed. A very important verse here today. Our friend Kali is everywhere. Well, I don't know if he's our friend, but at least he's doing his service. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. I'll just read this again. If the personality of Kali religion is allowed to act as a man god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound. Any questions or comments? We've got time for this quickly.
For the class, you mentioned that Krishna was telling Arjuna that don't worry, you are born of the divine qualities. And in the verse it says Naradeva, and we hear that Krishna had a son, Narakasura. So how can
Krishna what?
Krishna had a son, Narakasura, but he became demon.
Narakasura.
Yeah. So
well, these are Leelas. It's Narakasura, Bhaumasura, and Bhaumasura, Narakasura. That birth. Who was that birth again? To what there was the Mother Earth. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Varaha. That was the story, right? Lord Varaha. and Mother Earth when he picked her up, when he picked up the Earth, and her son was Bhaumasura and Narakasura. So these, we can't say that Krishna's son is. He acted in that way, and as I was saying the other morning, someone is impelled, just like Jai and Vijay, the spiritual world, intimate associates of the Supreme Lord, they took birth as asuras. So these kind of instances and these types of stories, they're not ordinary people. Even someone, Narakasura and others, Bhaumasura, they are impelled to act in a certain way so Krishna can perform some leela. So these are not just ordinary asuras, they are special asuras sent to assist the Lord in his leela, because people like to see, all these types of things, dramatic types of situations. We're attracted to drama. We're attracted to drama. Indeed, there's that saying, such and such is a drama queen. Right? We're attracted to drama. So, all right, you're attracted to ordinary drama. So therefore, to wrench you off the ordinary drama, Krishna creates some spiritual drama. All right, Narakasura, Bhaumasura, Hiranyakashipu. Wow. The mass of people who are attracted to ordinary drama. All right, you'll be attracted to spiritual drama. At least Krishna's involved here, and you can think of Krishna. So these are special leelas that are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Yes, one last question. You got a loud voice, I think everyone can hear. All right, anyway, take the outside,
Now, just the other day, there was some Muslims travelling through from Brisbane to Sydney, and they stopped in Knox Park, and they put their mats in the park there, praying, bowing down. So my son, I dropped tennis courts there and saw these fellows, so I walked over and, I bowed down with them. I thought, let's get in on the action. Krishna's involved, they're praying to Allah. So I bowed down and one of them looked at me, but they continued. Mantras in Persian or whatever language they're doing, sat up. Silence, I was appreciating. Bowing down, thinking of Krishna. I was chanting Hare Krishna, very silent. And then at the end, I paid my obeisances. When it was all over, they acknowledged me there, and folded the palms. And then I paid my obeisances to them. And they didn't do it. And they said, "Well, we don't concoct things like that." I said, "Well, my faith on Hare Krishna is that we do that as we are servants, and we recognise God within the servitor or the other person." And they said that we don't concoct. That's okay. It was okay, but the principle of worship, it's a bit different from the topic, but because we were all bowing to God, which we could feel and understand, at the end it was very respectful, and they asked me a few questions, and then we went on our ways. Just saying that's what happened, and overriding effect is the feeling was that we were worshipping the Lord together, and there were certain differences, but they could be easily overcome. That's all. It's just a comment, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One has to be sensitive, because they do have their procedures, and you may come, and it looks like it turned out okay for you, but you have to be sensitive. They're during their prayer meetings. I go to Indonesia, of course, quite regularly, and it's a predominantly Muslim country, and they have their prayers 5 times a day, and you have to be careful. You wouldn't, for example, take a big Harinam right through their prayer meeting, but we're all worshipping God, so it has to be a bit sensitive. But certainly there are overarching principles for all the religions. And Prabhupada was always very sensitive, talking to the Christians and talking to the Muslims and so on and so forth. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.